evening, you're with ET Now. This is the India Development Debate, the only show on national television that puts the spotlight on development issues. I'm Sandeep Gurumurthi, joining you from the news centre in Mumbai. Straight to the big debate tonight. Quota politics is raising its ugly head again, and this time around it is the turn of the Marathas, who brought the country's financial capital to a grinding halt today, demanding reservation in education and jobs. In fact, this is the second such instance wherein Mumbai is held hostage to a political agitation after the total shutdown at the start of the year over caste clashes involving the Dalits. Although the agitation was called off post-noon following an assurance by Chief Minister Fadnavis for a meeting with the Maratha leaders, the damage has already been done. Experts blame political parties for stoking the quota fire thanks to vote bank compulsions. Interestingly, the Maratha stir comes as a countdown for the Assembly and Lok Sabha polls begins. Remember, the Marathas are not so backward when it comes to holding positions of power or social status. So why are governments after governments yielding to such demands? Is the country's economic development taken aback due to politics over reservation? Why should Mumbai and its citizens be punished repeatedly over vote bank politics? The collateral damage due to quota politics, that's a topic of discussion on the India Development Debate tonight. And joining us on the India Development Debate this Wednesday evening, Swaminathan Iyer, consulting editor, ET Now, Neeraj Chandok, eminent sociologist and former professor of political science at the Delhi University, Kanchai Laya, activist for Dalit rights, and the two political representatives on the panel, Hitesh Jain representing the BJP and Charan Singh Sapra representing the Congress party. Thank you all for taking time and joining us on this very important debate on ET Now. Swami, let me start with you. Have the latest protests by the Maratha groups once again exposed the flaws in the reservation policy of our country?
Yes, it exposes the flaws in the reservation policy and in the political structure. I mean, we are used in the past that there are agitations by people who have been left out, people who have been excluded. This is an agitation by the most powerful section of Maharashtra. The Marathas, accounting for 38% of the population, a group that has always enjoyed a very strong hold on political power, on the sugar industry. So this is an agitation by the powerful, of the powerful, for the powerful. So in every way it is the worst kind of agitation of the privileged wanting even more privileges because they feel they are no longer as privileged as they used to be before. So I said, it is disgraceful that it is happening and it's taking place on this score. How does one stop it? I think the only way to stop it is the leaders should quickly be arrested and tried and convicted so that they cannot contest elections. And I would say there should be some provision that when there are leaders of an agitation that causes such damage, the cost of that damage should be borne by the leaders or by the organization that started this vandalism, and not by the state government. May I add that we've just heard the news that Mr. Hardik Patel has been convicted and jailed for 2 years for instigating violence in a 2015 agitation in Gujarat. Now, Hardik may not be very interested in contesting politicians, but some of the Marathas in charge of this may be. So I would say we need quick action to say, you know, we have CCTV cameras. We don't have to depend on lengthy, long interrogations and 500 witnesses being interviewed. On the basis of CC camera footage, let us quickly convict some of these leaders so that they're not only in jail, but they cannot contest elections for 6 years. And let the onus for damage be put on the organizers of not just this particular violent agitation, but all violent agitations.
He says it's disgraceful, mincing no words there, both the protest and the manner of protest, the cause and the manner, both. Kancha Laya, if I may come to you, the whole purpose of reservation is to correct societal and historical wrongs, which is why there was a case for reservation for scheduled castes and tribes. Aren't we digressing from the whole rationale by pandering to demands of now even dominant communities?
Well, when the Marathas, Patels, Jats, Gujars are demanding reservations, we should not forget that these were historical Shudra communities which were for a long time involved only in agrarian production. Now, if you look at the Delhi administrative structure from 1947 to today, how many Marathas came into civil services? How many Marathas are in the central universities as professors? How many Marathas are in the ambassadorial jobs? How many Patels are there? How many? On the contrary, the Prime Minister of India, having come from a business community, is an OBC, and many Banyas have taken OBC certificates. So in North India, the Banyas who had nothing to do with agrarian production and illiteracy put deliberately on them are now, several of them got into OBC list. And today you look at Rajya Sabha membership, the promotion through presidential order and other things, those who speak English, whether it was Congress earlier, today BJP, Arun Jaitley, Nirmala Sitharaman, Prakash Javadekar and Rakesh Sinha. Now, is there a Patel in that? This is English speaking community. How many Patels, Jats, Marathas are in English TV channels as anchors? As Akhileshwar Iyer was saying, I have not known a single English writer in English media from these Shudra communities. So earlier they thought that they were great Kshatriyas. Now they have realized that their position is much backward when it comes to control the Delhi power.
Okay, Kanchai Laya, allow me to interrupt you there. You're saying, Kanchai Laya, allow me to interrupt you there. I need to get a word in from other panelists as well. You're saying is that they have no access and they have complete inability to control Delhi power, but that's not the only yardstick to determine whether they are backward communities or not. But let me get in Neera Chandok as well. Ms. Chandok, these are not backward communities by any stretch of imagination. In fact, Marathas are predominantly landowning caste, and as Swami pointed out, a politically and economically dominant group. Is there any validity to their claim of backwardness? That's right, ma'am. That's right, ma'am.
Are you asking me that question?
Ms. Neera Chandok, that's question for you.
Please go ahead. Have you asked me the question? I think when reservations were originally planned during the freedom struggle and during the Constituent Assembly deliberations, the logic was quite different. The logic was that reservations would be meant for the doubly disadvantaged, people who are disadvantaged by reasons of caste and class. If we hadn't given reservations to Dalit children or the scheduled tribes, these kids would not have been allowed into schools and colleges and in employment. After that, the expansion of reservations to classes or to castes that consider themselves economically disprivileged when they are not, these are dominant castes. I think these have watered down the whole notion of reservations, and frankly reservations, the whole demand on reservations has gone berserk. I don't see any justification for the Marathas, who are a dominant community economically and politically in Maharashtra, asking for reservation just because now they want to move into the professions and into the modern education system. There is absolutely no justification.
No justification. So that's the view from Neera. You agree broadly with what Swami is saying. Hitesh Jain, the root of the insecurities of the Marathas or the Jats or the Patel lies in lack of education and jobs. And is that where the state has failed? Is that where the government has failed?
Well, I think you should not look at such an important issue from the narrow prism as to whether the government has failed or what has happened. If you would have noticed, since 1989, the issue of reservation has always been there in some context or other, whether any government, either governments have place, but in the context.
Right. I'm afraid we've got Hitesh on a poor link. We'll try and patch that link back. But let me take it to you, Charan Singh Sapra. And the fact of the matter is that if there is one political party, and I'm sure Swami will agree with me here, if there is one political party that has used reservation as a potent political tool, then it is a Congress. And thanks to years of appeasement politics, today it has become a race to the bottom.
No, can I answer?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. See, what I wanted to say, there's a general perception that the Marathas are very well off. But let me correct you that over a period of years, these Maratha community people, they have grown financially weak. They have been traditionally landlords. But as the family expanded, their land got divided as the generation passed on. So they are actually growing financially weak now, and probably the agrarian crisis has added to it. And thereafter the education and the jobs in the cities have made a more dominance in the current scenario. Now, as far as the situation, what happened today is the Congress doesn't support vandalism. We don't condone it. We don't endorse it. The issue is why this situation has reached. This situation has reached because the Bharatiya Janata Party or the Devendra Fadnavis government, they are just giving lip service. They are giving false promises to these Marathas. They have not been able to file the affidavit for 17 months. They have created a backward class commission, but there is no timeline for the commission to give the report. Further, the Chief Minister announced at the floor of the House that 72,000 jobs recruitment will start, and he will keep a 16% of those recruitments on hold for the Maratha community. Now, this has created unrest among the Marathas. They want this decision to be expedited. They want the government to act fast in the court. They want the government to give an early affidavit in the court and the early report of the commission. And secondly, what happened, the actual trigger where it disturbed everything was the statement of Chandrakant Patil, the senior minister of this government, and the chief minister himself. Chandrakant Patil, during the Pandharpur event, he gave a statement that the Maratha community, he alleged that they wanted to create a confusion or a stampede-like situation in the presence of the chief minister. Second day, the chief minister added that I had an intelligence report that somebody are going to release, the Maratha community is going to release snakes into the crowd of thousands of pilgrims in Pandharpur. So I never wanted this unwarranted, uneasy situation over there where stampede would have been
Charan Singh Sapra, I take that point. Allow me to interrupt
the statements of Fadnavis and the Chandrakant Patil
that aggravated this issue.
Created an outrage among the Maratha community, and hence they...
Charan Singh Sapra, allow me to interrupt you there, because we don't want this debate to focus on just Maratha reservation. We're raising a larger issue here, a larger national issue here, which our viewers across the country from Tamil Nadu to Delhi should care about. But Hitesh Jain, I'll let you respond to the point made there by Charan Singh Sapra and to respond to the earlier question that I made, which is that, is this all a fallout of the fact that there are no jobs being created, that there is a lack of education opportunity, which is why even a dominant community is feeling marginalized? Hitesh Jain.
Well, election times and election allegations. For Congress, the only one-point agenda is to divide the society, spread the hatred, spread the anger. You say something and do completely opposite. Now, as far as the issue of reservation is concerned, we are all aware the matter is sub judice and pending before the Supreme Court. It is not something that the government did not contest in the High Court. The government has filed all the affidavits and the details. The matter is pending for the hearing. The Supreme Court has to hear the matter and ultimately decide the issue. But having said that, we are not taking the excuse of the matter pending in the Supreme Court. There are affirmative action. Hostels have been created in every district. Fee reduction schemes have been given. Backward class commission has been constituted. Insofar as job opportunities is concerned, there is a scheme that was floated, at least 4 to 10 lakh rupee without any interest the loan was being provided to the needy youth so that they can carry on some sort of a business. So one of the way to address the issue when we speak about the employment and all, holistic measures from education, relief in terms of fees, hostel facilities, in terms of providing loans to start any entrepreneur activities. So this is the affirmative action that has been taken by the government for 2 years, and then after that what we are seeing is the vandalism and all.
Okay,
at the end of the day, Sandeep, I want to make a very important point.
Right.
Can we not have a dialogue? Can we not have a dialogue? This group, before resorting to vandalism, before bringing the city to grinding halt, can we not have a dialogue?
Absolutely. Hitesh, no one is going to disagree with their Swami at the start of the show said people behind the agitation should be jailed. Swami at the start of the show said people behind the agitation should be jailed. We must have a dialogue, and I think no one's going to criticize the government for affirmative steps that we take. We're raising a larger principal question on reservation, on the demand for reservation. Ms. Neera Chandok, let me come to you. An important question here. Poor Jats and Marathas, or people who are economically not well off, are actually lagging behind affluent OBCs. Even in education in states like Haryana, the percentage of graduates among Jats is lower than the percentage for OBCs. So in some sense, this seems to be a fight for a level playing field. Is there any merit at all in this argument, ma'am?
Yes, but reservations may not be the only answer to creating a level playing field. The agrarian crisis, admittedly, has hit all middle castes. These are castes that benefited from land reform and they became landowners, and today they are in the middle of this lowering of productivity and lack of minimum support prices and all the other problems that beset the agrarian community. Now you have the odd situation of castes who are both politically and economically dominant asking for reservations because they want to move into the professional arena. If political parties are promising reservations, I think what they are doing is adopting a soft option. Instead of improving the quality of education, instead of increasing the number of jobs, providing employment, instead of providing health, what they are doing is offering reservations to castes that actually are not legitimate candidates for these reservations. And just because a political party employs it as a ploy to get votes, there is no reason for the leaders of the community to fall into this trap. What the government ought to do is to employ a two-pronged strategy. They should assure social justice to all, in terms of education, in terms of employment, in terms of health, in terms of clean drinking water, so on and so forth. And reservations should be only meant for the doubly disadvantaged, because actually reservations are not going to solve any problem by giving a minority of people access to education and jobs. I think the government's political parties are taking people for a ride, and it's time we recognize this.
Wrong point you're making. Swami, a lot of these dominant castes have missed out on services-led salaried jobs because they simply lack the skills. OBCs have made some headway because of reservation. Is that another cause for this resentment that we're seeing among these dominant communities, that, you know, they're seeing now OBCs break through some of these jobs, at least government jobs, and they're unable to make it because, especially given the way the economy is shifted, services-led growth. So does that explain this resentment that we're seeing among these dominant castes?
I would say the main resentment is a loss of status. I mean, Kancha Ilaiah may say that these were Shudra castes, which of course is historically true. But the fact is that for decades, these have been the dominant landowners in rural India. Whether it's the Jats, whether it's the Patels, whether it's the Marathas, they've been the dominant. And if you were the dominant landowner, you mattered politically enormously. You had the police station in your pocket. You were the power that counted. There was a recent study, I remember, in Maharashtra, which showed that although Marathas are only 38% of the population, in the non-reserved panchayats, almost 70% of all the pradhans were Marathas. So it gives you an idea of status. There was a status that they had by virtue of large land ownership and the consequent relationship with the police station and the administration. Now, these people who are dominant, what's happening is as the economy progresses, the importance of land has diminished, as it should. I mean, we have to move away from being an agrarian society to being a modernized society where substantially the amount of contribution of agriculture comes down to a low level. Already in terms of GDP, agriculture is no more than 14-15% of GDP. So, the importance has come down. Now you say, have these particular castes been discriminated against in education? No. There is a major failure of government in all forms of governance, including the provision of education, the provision of health, and the provision of rural development. Because of this massive failure, we do not have equality of opportunity. That equality of opportunity is lacking among all rural castes. It is not more lacking among the Jats or the Marathas than among the Dalits. I mean, that would certainly be wrong. So, I mean, even today, the fact of the matter is that it may be that the landowning castes are feeling left behind. And in some sense, perhaps they are getting left behind. But the answer is not reservation. Let them apply themselves to education. Let them look inward into what is happening. Instead, what we find is that in India, any group that is politically large enough to make an impact, you go on an agitation and the government will cave in. In all the states where these agitations have taken place, whether it's Haryana, whether it's Rajasthan, the government gives in and says, we will give a quota to these landed gentry and leave it to the courts to strike it down. Everybody knows that this is violative of our laws. It is violative of our constitution. And yet in state after state, the state government caves in and gives it because you are unwilling to stand up to what is a significant, powerful land-owning caste. So all I can say is we do need to stand up to it. But as I said, it's not enough to just say, let's stand up as though it's a moral thing. People who are leading these agitations and getting into violence must be arrested and put in jail, what the fate of Hardik Patel, and to the extent that damage is caused, the cost of that damage, why should it be borne by the taxpayer?
Okay, fair enough.
Vandals who have caused the damage.
I take that point. Kancha Lai, I want to respond to the other point made by Swami, which is that, if these dominant communities feel that they are being left out in the new socio-economic order, isn't the onus also on the community? Should they not look inward to upskill themselves, invest in education, improve their employability? Is the onus not on the community itself instead of going on the streets and protesting and, and vandalizing, public property?
No, vandalization and law administration, I agree on that score. But what my friends are missing is, today's economy is not completely controlled by agrarian politics and economics and structures. Today you see the entire industry and the board of directors, 46% of board of directors are Banyas. And what is the population of Banyas? It is just 1%, perhaps 1.5. 42% are Brahmins. After software industry came, Infosys and so on and so forth. And the entire Shudra community, including Jats, Marathas, Patels, Kammas, Reddys, all of them constitute just 2.5. Dalits are 2.5 because they have come up in English education. Is there a director who can speak only Marathi in the top industrial area? And why all my friends also were not really agitated when two systems of education were created, private English and westernized. These are the people who go to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, came from them, from there they come back as economists and rule the country, get into the Rajya Sabhas and so on. Are there Patels in that? Are there Jats in that? Are there Marathas in that? After seeing Delhi, I think Neera, who is a friend of mine, seems to have completely misunderstood the whole situation. Today, the same dominant communities, once upon a time analyzed in political theory as dominant, remained only regional. What is the Maratha, Jat or Yadav strength in national parties? Can anybody speak of becoming a prime minister there? Why this is happening? Narendra Modi, who has an OBC certificate from Maud Gamchi, like Gandhi himself was Maud Banya. So they are business communities. The non-agrarian so-called service, whether priesthood or business, They have, in fact, anti-production communities, got into Sanskrit once, English later. These are the people who created a negative nationalist theories and dumped the entire agrarian production mass as Shudras and incapable of anything. What merit these people have in these universities? I know these universities.
Okay.
What merit these people have in IAS? What merit these people have in judiciary and even in newspapers?
Kancha,
No, I know Akhilesh Swami
Kancha,
is a good economist and writes.
Kancha, allow.
But are there Patels, are there Jats in Indian journalism? What merit this journalism has today?
Okay, I need to go to, okay,
TV anchors.
okay.
Very
Kancha,
good.
I take that point. Swami, a quick rebuttal from you and then I'm going to go to Hitesh Jain. Swami.
No, I'll simply say this. The idea that you can equate everybody in the rural area from the Dalit to the Maratha to the landowner is utterly ridiculous. Completely and totally ridiculous. There are shades and shades and shades of people. Some are better off, some are worse off. The other point he's making is, have you ever seen a Patel anywhere? The answer is, I have seen nothing but Patels. Chief Minister after Chief Minister, if you look, you will find names like Patel in the state of Gujarat. Businessman after businessman, you will find names like Patel.
Regionalism.
The idea that no Patels are in business, I mean, I can't understand what he is talking about. If I remember right, Chimanbhai Patel, one of the big Congress chief ministers, was much criticized as Chiman Chor at one point of time. But you know, any number of Patels, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel has been, the idea that Patels are completely knocked out, these are completely powerless fellows, and you know, they are landed fellows and they are on par with other agrarian fellows, and lumping Patels together with everybody else, I can't think of anything more ridiculous.
Then you want to come in, and I'm adding a quick question. You keep faulting the Congress party for playing vote bank politics. You know, you never miss an opportunity, the BJP, of criticizing the Congress party for vote bank politics. I take that point. If that is the case, why does the BJP, given its political capital, not have the courage, like Neera Chandok and Swaminathan Iyer are pointing out, not have the courage to not pander to every reservation demand in every state of this country? Even now, the Maharashtra Chief Minister has promised, 16% reservation for Marathas, subject to the court giving it's not. Your government is bending backwards, sir.
Sandeep, I will respond to you, but I also want to say the disgusting narrative which we heard from Kancha Ilaya, when people speak in such language and create such, spread such falsehood and spread a narrative which has got no basis, no ideology, their only point ideology. Nowadays, you know, the only point ideology, you don't like Prime Minister Narendra Modi, blame everything on him. Blame everything on him for Patel not being a chief minister, blame everything on him on Maratha not being a chief minister. Has anyone stopped any, why did Congress party appoint a Maratha as their leader and all? What kind of this language and everything? We live in the democracy and all. It is because of the people like this, when they spread such kind of narrative, what happens is the reasoned dialogue goes away and we get into all this kind of this discussion doesn't make any sense. As far as the issues of Maratha is concerned, the reservation is concerned, Bharatiya Janata Party supports the reservation of Maratha, because, and this is not on any political basis, or this is not because of any this thing. We have studied the data, we have looked at all the factors, we have seen that the kind, if you, at one end there, the affirmation action is required to bring, because the data provides that there is a problem in education, that the data provides that there is the inequality and everything, and if they are provided, we should be. But at the end of the day, whatever be the reason, there has to be a dialogue. We can sit across the table, we can find out the way, fine. Reservation is pending in the, reservation issue is pending in the Supreme Court, but that does not mean that the government cannot do affirmative action. Government will continue to do, and I can assure the Maratha community also through your channel that the government is always there in support for you. You should sit with the government. The Chief Minister is mindful of the situation, and he is ready to do whatever it is possible to support the community. But please do not resort to violence. Please do not resort to such agitation which brings city to the standstill. It doesn't give, this is not going to solve the solution. We have to come on the table, we have to come with a solution. Maratha community also has a lot of intellectual leaders. They also need to come ahead, and we need to have some proactive solution.
Okay,
So I am not looking at this thing as a Congress and this thing. Congress can continue to do their this thing, but I am using this opportunity to seek a dialogue with the Maratha community also, so that they should come ahead for the dialogue.
Okay, I take that point. Charan Singh Sapra, at the end of the day, the whole vote bank politics, the point that Swami referred to as well, at the end of the day, have you left any political party with any choice? I mean, we may be critical of the BJP, for pandering to every demand, but have they, it was your chief minister when your party was in power who announced emphatically that there will be 16% reservation, a move that was subsequently struck down by the court. With Marathas comprising a third of the state's population, they are a voting bloc. So what else can we expect from a democratically elected government than to give in to their demand? So is this the way forward? Are we all going to just address and pander to every demand made by every voting bloc?
No, not exactly. See, there are provisions and whatever decision was taken, that was taken within the purview of law and constitution. Now, if the BJP spokesperson, my friend, was now talking about the affirmative actions, if the government is taking affirmative actions, they are only left on papers. You need to see at the ground level also. Today, the Marathas are feeling cheated because nothing is being executed at the ground level. This is the actual position over there. Secondly, the job creation has to increase. This is the fact, which this unfortunately in the last 4.5 years of Narendra Modi government, the job creation, they themselves promised 2 crore jobs annually, but nothing has been worked on that. Nothing substantial. No, let me complete. Let me complete.
He didn't interrupt you, sir. Hitesh, make your point. Hitesh,
don't be so arrogant. I never interrupted when you were talking, my friend.
Charan Singh, yeah, absolutely.
I never interrupted when you were talking.
Go ahead, Mr. Sapra. Go ahead.
Yeah. See, what I wanted to say, though all the chief ministers were Marathas, you are right. But then you said that this issue has been going on since 1989, and every angle has been observed in that. And following this, the reports have come, and then this reservation was given. Now, BJP has to come clear on this. If they are putting a question mark on Congress party and its chief ministers, then are you ready to give the reservation today? Don't be hypocritical. Your hypocrisy is being exposed. So don't go into that. You have to give reservation. Don't instigate these Marathas. And further, you have to see that everything goes smoothly. You were talking about dialogue. Now let me ask you that the chief minister today 6 o'clock he gave a press release saying that he is willing to have a dialogue with Maratha organization. Why he did not give this release yesterday? Why he did not call the organizations yesterday or day before yesterday when he knew that this agitation is well planned? They had announced the agitation yesterday that Mumbai, Thane, Navi Mumbai is going to be closed. So chief minister proactively he should have called these Maratha Kranti Morcha yesterday evening. Why is giving a call today 6 p.m.? So somewhere the BJP's hypocrisy is exposed.
Okay, here's the thing, Neera Chandok, here's the thing. I think what is evident is that both the political parties, there's no way they're going to look at it from a slightly big picture point of view, because there are political, stakes involved. It's understandable that they will not look beyond the political prism. But I want to ask you a more technical question. Even if the judiciary were to okay it, and I don't see any reason how it could, how can the state provide enough work for 60% of the society? You can't possibly have reservations for up to 60% of the society. How is that even feasible?
Well, they're taking the easy way out, aren't they? They are promising reservations to actually groups that are not legitimate candidates in a declining education sector and in a declining public employment sector. I mean, they're actually, political parties are making a fool of people. The university system is in considerable crisis because public spending has been withdrawn. And now what is the alternative? Private universities, which a majority of Indians cannot afford. The government sector is in considerable crisis because there are not more jobs being generated. The jobs are being generated whatever in the informal sector, and we see the informalization of labor in the formal employment sector. There is a crisis all around, and the government should get down, the government, state and the central government should get down to sorting out this agrarian crisis. There's a crisis of water, there's a crisis of productivity, there's a crisis of labor, and people who used to work on the land are being displaced by migrants. So in a way, you have all this hatred coming up because you cannot offer your own people jobs. Instead of setting their minds to these basic reforms which need to be carried out, what political parties are doing are promising 2% to 2.5% reservations, and more importantly, reservations are being used to divide society. Today, caste is pitted against caste, subcaste is pitted against subcaste. You see the result in the form of the fragmentation of civil society as an area of social movements. I think it's time that civil society leaders don't speak to governments, they start speaking to each other and realize how governments have actually adopted a very soft option and in the process fragmented the domain of social struggles. At least I'm very unhappy with this politics of promising people reservations when you know you cannot deliver and the Supreme Court is going to throw it out the moment you come to power.
Fair enough. Kanchalaya, you say we need to increase the quota. You've said that you believe we need to increase the quota. But with more than 50% reservation already in government jobs, where do we stop? Where do we stop? When do we stop? Should we just forget about meritocracy?
Caste is a social reality. I don't think any political scientist or any economist would deny the existence of caste as they denied before a 1990 Mandal struggle. Now, once caste is a category of selection and promotion and so on, when non-agrarian communities which were either in business or in the so-called education or priesthood have acquired elite structure, control over elite structures in Delhi and governance, I don't know, my BJP friend was saying that I am creating a narrative to create this kind of situation. Would he tell the nation that if Narendra Modi were not to say that he was an OBC, before the election, would he have won the election? Now, why did he say that? Now, Iyer was talking about the regional power. The regional parties are there among the Shudra communities, among the Kammas, Reddy, Jats, so on and so forth. But the national power is still out of the control of the agrarian communities and Shudras. This is where the elite and the organized business, organized education forces, organized English educated forces are coming. Today, I have been going to many of these debates. I have not seen any Shudra community intellectual coming and arguing. Sardar Patel, how many books he wrote? Gandhi, how many books he wrote? Jawaharlal Nehru, how many books he wrote? Why Sardar Patel could not write? Why there is no Shudra philosopher from Kautilya to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru? Where is it? Akhilesh Iyer was saying that I am speaking ridiculous. He did not even understand Indian history. I am saying this very seriously. Is there a Shudra priest in any big temple? Why have you allowed this discrimination? Why a journalist did not question? Tirupati temple is the biggest temple. Why a Shudra priest who is also an Hindu? BJP calls it Hindu, all of them. RSS calls all of them. Why should not they become philosophers and priests in the same religion and should not get English education on par? This is the question. Reservation will provide that answer. Our solution is, yes, poverty will be there in all castes. That has to be removed. But 50% of lit cap is not a judicial acceptability. This is arbitrarily imposed by the Supreme Court. The entire Shudra community must question this.
Okay, now, Mr. Kanchalaya, allow me to interrupt you there. You made a spirited point, and I just want to set the record straight here. We are not debating the need for reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled. I mean, our whole debate is on the need for reservation for dominant caste. Just to set the record straight, I don't want viewers to get confused there. You're saying there's a case to increase the cap beyond 50%. That's something okay, I take that point.
What is this logic?
I take that point. Swami Kanchala says we need to take it beyond 50%. Where does it stop? How? When will it stop? Where will it stop? Because the fact of the matter is that political parties will be all too happy to pander to these demands as well, number one. And number two, in some sense, have states like Tamil Nadu muddied the waters by finding clever ways to breach the 50% cap. The moment Tamil Nadu did it today, everyone knows that, oh, it's happened in one state, you can find a clever way of getting around it. So, in some sense, states like Tamil Nadu muddied the waters, Swami.
Well, if you say how far should you take it, any cutoff frankly is arbitrary. I mean, Supreme Court said 50%. If Kanchaya Ilaya says 60%, you can also have 60%. I mean, any cutoff is arbitrary. But I am merely saying this. Kanchaya Ilaya says, why are there not more Shudras in various positions of power in business, in the professions? It's a good question. And the answer is that we have been completely let down by a government which over 70 years, if it had provided enough educational opportunities, including English language opportunities in all the government schools, over the last 70 years, all of Mr. Kanchaya Ilaya's visions of progress would have been fulfilled. It has not been fulfilled because of a very major failure of state government after state government after state government, a failure to equip the rural castes, the rural areas with the same kind of educational skills that are there in the urban areas and which the richer classes and which the upper castes have taken advantage of very much more. So without doubt we have ended up in a highly unequal society which deserves to be rectified. But it deserves to be rectified by tackling those grassroots reasons. The idea that by having a reservation, you solve the problem of this huge fundamental lack of equality of opportunity is just not true. So yes, we need to do a whole lot to improve our society, to equalize it, to remove a large number of disabilities of various castes. Without doubt we need to do that. Reservation has already proved that it does not solve the problem. And merely having more of it will not solve the problem either.
Point. In 60, 71 years, having it has not solved any of the problem. But Charan Singh Sapra and Hitesh, and coming to you, to the politicians, Charan Singh Sapra, to you first. How does one draw Lakshman Rekha when it comes to reservations? Because frankly, just like there is a clamor for these reservations, there is another section of the society that that does not have this sort of political clout, which is the middle class, that is frankly sick of these demands. And this is not what our constitution makers envisaged, and this is not what will lead to development. It hasn't served any purpose, like Swami very eloquently pointed out. So, Charan Singh Sapra, how are we going to draw the Lakshman Rekha when it comes to reservation demands?
See, Sandeep, the Lakshman Rekha has been already drawn. Now the issue is when there is the constitution is allowing it, then only it can be executed. Whatever decision the Maharashtra government, whether it was the Congress government who passed the ordinance or followed by the BJP government which made an official bill in the assembly. Now, it is within the purview of the law and the constitution of India which the government has executed. We cannot go beyond the constitution. Even if the Jayalalitha government took the reservation to 69%, they used the 9th schedule. So, the Maharashtra government, the current dispensation has to see, the BJP has to see whether they want to use the 9th schedule. And because they have 2/3 majority in parliament also, they have maximum number of states with them, and this needs a constitutional amendment. So there's a big question mark today, which even the Marathas are wanting, that the BJP having 2/3 majority and having so many states with them, can the BJP help these Marathas by going into the 9th schedule and increasing the reservation in Maharashtra beyond 52% and reaching it to probably 60 or 61%? This is another question which is going to rise, and it has risen today, and it will come on by tomorrow day after.
Okay, come in there, Hitesh Jain. Same question. how do you believe, let's keep politics aside, how do political parties, how can they draw Lakshman Rekha when it comes to reservations, because it hasn't worked, and what we need is more investment in education, more investment in creating jobs, more investment in agriculture, making it a sustainable livelihood. That is what we need. More reservation, taking 50% to 60% to 70% is not going to solve the problem. History is sort of witness to that fact. So how do we draw that Lakshman Rekha, Hitesh?
The Lakshman Rekha can be drawn in by the set of reforms that we have adopted in last 4 years, and to accelerate the pace of reforms. We should have more number of IITs, we should have more numbers of IIM, we should have English medium schools across, we should expand the education network, we should expand that maximum children, no child should be left out of from the education system. We should ensure that the schemes like Mudra Yojana really work, and we should also look at the data, like of more than 8 to 10 crore people have got the benefit of Mudra scheme, so as to what is the progress and everything, and we should ensure that we can monitor the schemes effectively. We should back up with the affirmative action. I think lots that needs to be done. We can get into this whole Congress's favorite trump card is divide and rule and reservation, and this is come elections and they will play everything, this thing. We do not want to get into this, but I can assure you that
played, my dear.
Party will
even today the BJP is eyeing the OBC
to
vote
bring
or
with
the
affirmative
52%
actions.
vote.
BJP will leave no stone unturned to bring affirmative action. Ms. Neera Chando, I'm coming to you. Is it imperative then that the government takes structural steps to reform the agriculture sector, specifically in the case of Marathas and Patels that we're seeing, to make it a feasible occupation, to improve the employability of youth? Is that the direction in which policymakers need to focus?
I think policymakers can only go in the right direction if they think in terms of a universal basic social income for all people who are below a stipulated line. I'm not going to use the poverty line because that is very controversial. Everybody, irrespective of caste, religion, gender, should be promised this basic social minimum. Affirmative action policy should only be for people who are subjected not only to economic decline but also to social prejudice and disadvantage. Let me take issue with my friend Kancha Alaya there. Caste is a principle of the social order. When individual groups, caste groups, organize to make demands upon the state, often at the expense of other caste groups, then that is a political reality. Caste by itself is not a political reality. And unfortunately, all that leaders of groups that are organizing to make demands upon the state can do is to ask for reservations. Why are their imagination so truncated? Let them think in terms of social justice for all, in the terms of redistributive justice, That is one point. Secondly, when somebody spoke on your panel on equality of opportunity, may I say equality of opportunity does not make sense unless you look at background inequalities. And it seems to me that if you look at background inequalities, there are only two groups that actually qualify by reasons of a very iniquitous and a very hierarchical caste social order. One is, of course, the Dalits, and the second are the Adivasis. I don't know where the middle castes have come into this picture at all as a claimant for reservation. It doesn't seem to make sense for me, and I think political leaders are taking them down the wrong path. I'm not scoring points of any government. I think all governments have neglected the agrarian order, and the greatest discontent is coming from this section of the people.
Kancha Layak, I want you to respond to the point made there by Ms. Neera Chandok that these middle castes are in no manner constitutionally, legally, socially claimants of reservation, any form of reservation.
No, the question is, does Professor Neera Chandok say that the OBCs today would not have been given reservation, and what was the presence of the OBCs from Dhobi community to shepherds to artisan communities in the central universities? What was their presence in Delhi University? What was their presence in JNU? What was their presence in IITs? And today, in spite of reservation, what is the fill-up level there? Now my question is, if we don't understand India from the point of view of existing reality, impose all the theories that Europeans constructed there and map up on India, Indian political theory goes completely awry. The question is, caste is a reality. The Shudra communities were agrarian producers. Banyas came into Dvijahood with the Guptas. Earlier Brahmins from writing Rigveda to present, they had the most advantageous position in every sphere. If that was the case, I would ask both political parties as well as my friends, shall we not abolish private English medium schools? Let us go back to all schools in regional language. Why not we do that? Why did they allow this private and English? It was private and Sanskrit earlier.
Okay, Kancha, allow me to interrupt you. I'm completely running out of time. I just have time for one last closing comment to Swami. I want to get everyone a word in. Swami, you've heard the panel really, and the fact of the matter is that, it is being used as a tool to uplift marginal, reservation was meant to be a tool to uplift marginal communities. Today, it is being used by dominant communities. So, the big question is, can we really put an end to this quota charade and focus instead on policies that will create job opportunities, growth across communities? Is that feasible, or is that just too simplistic a solution that we can sort of offer in debate programs like this, but politically it will never happen?
I would say as long as the caste system is as strongly entrenched as it is today, there will be demands made along caste lines too, whether it's reservation or in various other areas. The fact that we are having caste-based agitation is a reflection of the structure of society. And in a democracy, you are always going to have different groups agitating, and if caste is a natural group within society, there will be caste-based agitations. So that itself, I don't think is ever going to go away. We can get far more and more prosperous, our GDP can go up twice, 3 times, 5 times. I do not think the caste-based things will go away until such time as society itself changes and caste becomes much less important and other categories come in. So I think as of now we are stuck with caste-based politics for decades to come, because it is so deeply ingrained within the structure of society that it is that after 70 years of independence, despite saying that the constitution saying that nothing should be done on the basis of caste, I am afraid society is still moving very substantially on that basis, and until we change that structure of society, I do not think caste-based politics can be wished away.
Caste-based politics is here to stay. How do we still find a way to meet our development goals, our growth aspirations, become a superpower that we want to be? That's the big question, isn't it? Can't thank this wonderful panel enough for joining us on this special edition of the India Development Debate. It's been a fascinating debate. Neera Chandok, Swaminathan Iyer, Kanchai Laya, Hitesh Jain and Charan Singh Sapra. Appreciate your thoughts and perspective on the India Development Debate on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Up next is Top 10 at 10 with Tanya. Keep it with ET Now.